Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here, grateful to be here to talk to you again. It feels like time flies so fast and we're already back at the conference. It's awesome. There have been lots of great presentations. Yeah, and so I realized, with my presentation, we're right in that second breakfast, maybe third breakfast for some people, Mike, but bear with me, stay on the path as we journey forward. And I talked to you about a subject that is very passionate for me, and that is the Commercial Innovation Program with Farming Smarter. Hopefully my passion, rubs off on you guys a little bit and my excitement, and hopefully by the end of this you understand a little bit more about our Commercial Innovation Program. And really, what does that mean? So first I want to talk to you about some of the history of Farming Smarter and how have we really come to form this program. First thing I want to talk about is how we've grown. And one easy way to see how we've grown is just the number of staff that we have. So this here is a picture from 2011, and that was 8 years before me. And we have 8 staff. And funny enough, these numbers kind of line up a little bit. And then here is a picture from 2023, where we have 23 employees. 12 of those are full-time staff, and then 11 of those are students, summer student staff. We're super proud to be able to bring on so many passionate students in the summer and really mentor them and get the assistance to be able to do all the research that we do. And that level of staffing reflects the volume and really the expertise and work that we are able to put into so many different research projects. With that growth, we've found there's a need to partition our efforts into business units or teams so that we can really take care of each goal as best as we can. First, Ken, he holds us all together and makes sure that we're on task and we're following our goals. We've heard from Mike, who manages our agronomy research, and that's small plot, grant-based research mainly. We've heard from Lewis, who manages our field-tested program, and he's working on farm with farmers and their equipment on both contracted and grant-based research. We have myself, and I manage our Commercial Innovation Program, and that's working with industry partners on contracted research on small plots. Then we have our Knowledge and Network team, and we're reaping the benefits of their program right now with this event, and they take care of our social media and really getting our information out to farmers to use. Then we also have our field crew, and they're really making sure that all the trials are taken care of, they're placed properly, irrigated, all those kind of things, so that we can have proper research plots. And even though we're set up in these teams and business units, we're super interconnected because we're a small organization. So we're talking to each other, and we're making sure that we're meeting those goals together. A good example or kind of backstory of that is kind of with the commercial innovation. In the past, working with companies, me, Mike, and Lewis have all kind of been working on that, and now we've moved all those industry projects into one team, and we can really manage them a lot better, and then they can focus on their grant-based and field scale programs. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk, right? We're really interconnected and work together. Another way to tell that we've grown is by our equipment. So we've really worked hard to grow our capacity to actually do more research plots. And Ken has been amazing at making sure that we're purchasing really top-tier equipment that is similar to what's going to be used out in the fields in our area, and making sure that it's new and we have new technology and it's maintained. So we have really a world-class lineup of equipment, especially in the research realm or sector, I guess. Yeah, you can see here on those pictures we have a couple planters. That's the one monostem planter has been talked about, and we've also got a new corn planter last year. That's really helped with our capacity. One thing that has been awesome is we were able to secure a WGRF grant to purchase that air seeder, that green air seeder in the last picture, and then also to purchase a new combine. And for harvesting, this has tremendously improved everything. We could not do the amount of trials that we're doing without a new combine. It just helps so much. And then we have various other pieces of equipment just to really ensure that we're able to set up all sorts of trials and do all the maintenance and setup that we need. We also invest in advanced equipment and continue to upgrade, like I was saying. So we've bought a variable rate sprayer, an Amazon sprayer, and we also have an NIR machine, to do some of those more technical spray applications or data collection activities. And as mentioned, we're also purchasing new potato equipment to get into small plot potato work, which is very exciting. Yeah, so we're really trying to be at the forefront of with our equipment so that we can work on those innovative research projects. And we couldn't do that with just some old piece of equipment that we, just kind of put together. So now we'll shift gears a little bit, so that kind of hopefully gives a background of how we're growing and working with our programs. And I want to talk more specifically about the Commercial Innovation Business Unit. So here's a little clip from one of our promotional videos kind of introducing that business unit.
With over a decade of experience delivering data to clients from small plot and field scale trials, we are the go-to organization in southern Alberta. Client satisfaction is of utmost importance. We follow the direction of each client regarding processes such as data collection and analysis, as well as reports to meet client objectives. We can provide scientific expertise, manpower, and equipment to conduct research and data collection and analysis of that data, along with connection to our network of passionate innovators.
Yeah, so hopefully that kind of introduces what we do. And now I'll get into it more specifically here. So what is the process of commercial innovation? What does that look like? When I was thinking about this, it really does go back, and it starts at a company that has an idea for a product, or they have a product already in the works. They've done lab experiments. Now they want to get that product tested. And so they want to do applied research in the field, usually starting with small plot research, because then you can do a whole bunch of tests all at once. It's a lot more cost effective. So the next step would be that company needs to find someone like Farming Smarter to contract with and do that research. And I'll back up just a little bit there. Like, companies also do their own in-house research, but the third-party unbiased research is super important for not only them, but just product development in general. Through a research organization like us that does that unbiased research, they can be confident that if their product is working, then it really is working. So we will conduct the small plot research, and we'll collect a bunch of data. we'll help analyze that data. Sometimes we just send that data right back to the company. They do some analyzing, and most of the time, they're going back right into the research stream the next year or for a few years until they are confident that that product can be registered or it's proven and that what it's going to do actually meets the objectives of a farmer or what the need is. And so once they are accepted, then it'll go into a product and it'll make its way to farmers that can utilize it and reap the benefits. So this here is a graph of the industry type trials, so companies that have contracted us to do work with them, and the growth of those trials. It's been a pretty steady growth of trials and companies over the years. You know, we've had a couple of dips, but really, in speaking about how we've increased our capacity, we can see in 2022 and 2023, we kind of reached that threshold in a sense where we had the expertise, the manpower, the equipment, where we could increase the number of trials and then do a really good job at that as well. So we've exploded with our trials in 2022 and 2023. And just to kind of break down, like, what are the types of trials that we're doing? So we have pesticide trials, variety trials, nutrients, biostimulants, and agronomy type trials. And yeah, you can see in this pie, pesticides take up over a majority of the trials. I think that's for a couple reasons. One, pesticide trials are, you know, quite easy to implement, especially herbicide trials. So if we kind of look over here, you can see that of the pesticide trials, we're mainly doing herbicide trials. And I think that's because herbicide trials are even easier to implement. You know, finding weeds and putting weeds in the field can actually be a lot more reliable than trying to find a disease or have an insect come in. And so we've been able to really grow our expertise in the herbicide research niche. And, you know, with pesticides in general, but herbicides as well, like, there's a real need to control weeds. And yeah, and so I think there's a lot of herbicide research just going on in general. And then pesticides in general, there's a whole ton of research going on because they need to get their products registered and proven and prove their efficacy to get them to market, right? They have to go through all the safety, environmental, health regulations. So there's a real need, and they can't do all that research in-house. And I've been finding with my clients too, like I was saying before, they really are understanding the benefit of that third-party unbiased research. Again, if we are reporting back to the client saying this product is working, and we don't have a stake in that product, they can rest assured that product is actually working the way they want it to, or not, and then they have to go back to the drawing board too, right? So here's just a really short list of companies that we've worked with, and I really want to get into a couple examples and really go through some of the specifics of really, like, what does some of this research look like and what do we do with these companies. First, I'll talk about Solveris and the partnership we have with them. They are an innovative agri-tech company, and they're focused on crop input technologies. One of the things that we find really important is when we're working with these companies is to understand their products and their goals. So with Solveris, they're concerned a lot with product development and marketing. And I'll back up just a little bit there. Solveris, their head office is in Calgary, and they have patents in multiple countries, sorry. And they have a very specialized kind of small portfolio of nutrients. And they are producing sulfur-based products. So in understanding that they are working with sulfur products, one thing that we do to help Solveris is to find locations for their trials that are limiting in sulfur, so that we can actually set up a proper research trial and have a response, hopefully, from the product. So that's kind of one way that we try to help them out and understand how to set up a proper trial. Solveris, they're producing a raw product that then gets sold to a retail company and branded and then sold as a retail product. So they sell to companies like Nutrien. And from what I understand, there's not as much red tape as pesticides. They still have to follow Fertilizer Act and some regulations, but they're not really jumping through a lot of hoops. So it's a lot more cost effective for them and less time consuming. But they still do need to prove that their product is doing what they say it is or what the need is. So I'll chat about a couple products that we've been working on over the years, just to give a sense of what we've been doing. And the first one is a carbon capture ammonium sulfate. And so what they do here is they use waste carbon products like mill waste or chicken manure, and they manufacture that with ammonium sulfate to have a carbon-based product and to use some of that waste up. And we worked with this product in 2019 on canola. Then we have our urea micronized sulfur, or urea MST. So that is sulfur that has been produced with the urea. And I'm not really familiar with the micronizing technology and how they really do that, but basically from what I understand, they kind of are chopping up the sulfur and making it more available in a sense. So that when it is in the soil, it can break down faster and be available a little bit quicker. And we worked with this product in the spring of 2021, and then in the fall of 2022, we applied on the soil, and then we planted into it in spring of 2023 with canola. Next product is liquid MST, so that is UAN with the micronized sulfur, and we used that in the spring of 2021. And that can be put through a liquid kit, side banded to the seed row. Next one that we've done a bit of work on as well is the MAP and micronized sulfur, so the MAP MST. We worked with this product in the spring of 2021, and then we applied it in the fall of 2022 and seeded canola in the spring. We also had this on winter wheat that we seeded in the fall of 2022. So I'll talk about that trial a little more specifically. The objective of the winter wheat MAP MST was to measure crop response from the MAP MST and to test the in-furrow crop safety, because they really weren't sure how it was going to interact with the wheat in furrow. And we had a pretty good idea, because it is a low salt product. So we fall applied MAP MST, a grower standard, which was just MAP, so 1152 with AMS, and a competitor product. And we balanced those treatments with AMS. So the standard, the MAP with AMS had quite a bit of AMS. The MAP MST had just a little bit of AMS just to kind of bump up the sulfur. And then that competitor also had just a slight amount of AMS. Yeah, and that was to test these treatments, fairly across the board, right? We had a target sulfur amount that we needed to apply, and we wanted to make sure that was the same across the board. So it turned out to be 12 treatments. We had in-furrow and side-banded treatments. We had minimal irrigation, and we seeded September 26th, and it grew very well. We only really irrigated enough to kind of keep things growing, and the crop grew really good. despite the drought. When looking at the data, so we took plant count data, NDVI, some tissue sampling, some soil tests, and none of the data really came back significantly different between any of the treatments. And we could see that in season as well, just visually. Everything looked pretty uniform and that it was growing really good. One thing that I want to point out is the yield. Again, the yield didn't really show any statistical differences, but what we can see is that the MAP MST is yielding a little more than the grower standard and the competitors, so about 3 to 4 bushels per acre more. And just to mention here, so I combined, or I averaged the treatments across the in-furrow and the side-banded treatments, because we weren't really seeing any difference from the in-furrow to the side-banded. They were yielding the same, basically. So this helps just simplify that and understand what's going on. One other really interesting point is that with the in-furrow treatments, we weren't seeing any crop damage at all. So at this point, I would be pretty confident to say that that product can be used in furrow. This was just a one-year project, so it will be interesting to work with Solvaris further on these types of trials. Maybe, hopefully this one in particular. And that's kind of my final note with Solvaris. We look forward to continuing to build a long-term partnership with them to develop their products and make sure they fit in southern Alberta for farmers and for the right application. Next, I want to talk about New Farm and our partnership with them. So New Farm is a global agriculture chemical company, and they have a huge portfolio of pesticide products. They're mainly looking for new actives or new formulations with their actives. One interesting thing is they're not a discovery company, so they're not going out there in the lab trying to find new molecules and really work on that. That's kind of a whole other bag of worms, from what I understand. But what they will do is discovery companies that do come up with new molecules and have them kind of tested and proven already in a sense, they'll purchase those and then they'll work those into new formulations or products. Even with that process, it still takes about 10 to 15 years for a company like New Farm to get a product to market, going through all the testing and regulations, and it takes hundreds of millions of dollars. I used to only think a few million, but it's gone up tremendously. So that's a huge barrier to really getting products to market. So you can kind of think to yourself, why aren't we seeing like amazing products right now or new products? And that's probably why. They are working on them, but it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. And it takes about 3 to 5 years of good data, and also 5 sites per piece that they're looking at. So whether that's each crop or each weed or each formulation. So if they want to test a product on wheat, barley, durum, they're all each going to have 5 sites in 3 to 5 years. So it just balloons into a whole ton of research that they need to do, and they definitely cannot do that all on their own. So we've been working with New Farm since 2016, and it's been a great partnership. Trials that we've been working with them on, mainly herbicides. So this kind of reflects the overall program as well, and why we have so many herbicides. And we've also worked with some fungicides, some seed treatments, and some biologicals. We've worked on crops in like wheat, barley, peas, lentil, canola. Those are some of the big crops you work with. Yeah, and again, so yeah, I'll move on to my other slides here. So some of the things that we try to help New Farm understand is our weed population and spectrum. So we really try to communicate, what do we have in our area, what trials do they have, and try to match those up. We have, kochia, wild buckwheat trials with them, storksbill, also some of the other main weeds you guys know too, right? Wild oats, lamb's quarters, red root, volunteer canola, volunteer mustard, those kind of weeds. And, some of those volunteer weeds, we can hand seed in, and we can do a really good job at them. The other weeds, because they're so prevalent in the area, we can map those out, and we've gotten really good at figuring out where to place trials, and we're very successful with those. And that's in contrast to, like I was talking about earlier too, like some disease trials. Diseases are pretty tricky, especially when we're so hot and dry in our area. One disease that we found to be working really good is sclerotinia white mold in lentils or pulses and canola. And so that's one disease that we focus on with New Farm. And some of the things that we have to deal with there are really finding how can we set up a trial to induce disease as best as possible. So if we're in a pulse crop, for example, we'll seed that pulse crop at a high seeding rate on a pulse stubble, and we'll do everything possible to irrigate and to get that disease in the crop. And having a long-term partnership with New Farm has been awesome because they understand those kind of fluctuations in disease and just how it works in our area. So they've been really awesome to work with on that. With these types of trials, we do mainly visual ratings. And we follow the Canadian Weed Society visual rating scales for weed efficacy, chemical efficacy, and also crop tolerance. So here I just have the scale for weed efficacy. And from here, this just really helps us to be consistent in our ratings, because you can kind of imagine, having just a visual rating can kind of be subjective from one person to the other. So we really try to train one another and our students to be able to see the percentages and that control similar to each other. And I think these scales help us do that for sure. So just quickly, anything like under 60% efficacy, we consider that just poor efficacy. There's no suppression of that weed. You might see some stunting or some damage, but the chemical's really not helping much, and you're still going to get some crop damage or effects from that weed, especially depending on your population of that weed. And on the interval side there, so anything under 60%, we're just looking at 10% differences. So a difference between 30% versus 40%, and really, can you tell the difference sometimes between those? Not really. And does it really matter in the end? Again, not really, right, if the chemical's not working. But we do try to be as close and, relaying the percentage that we do see. And then as we get up to like the higher efficacy, then it becomes a little more important to find those differences. So to find something that has high control, like a 90% versus 100%, where you're not finding that weed at all, there is a bit of a difference. So we're trying to pick out some of those like 2% differences sometimes. Okay, awesome. I'll try to speed it up here quick here. So when we're doing these visual ratings, we always relate back to the check. Just to see, they haven't been sprayed, so what do they look like? So we can see here might be a low control for the volunteer canola that's in that picture, and then high control for the lamb's quarters there that was just smoked right out. I won't get into the Oxbow trials, but we have been working with Oxbow, which is now available this year. And we've been working with that product since 2019. So it's awesome to see that a product that we've been helping on has actually made it to the market. And here's just some symptomology of that Oxbow. So the right picture is just that duplozan, which is dichloropropyl P, kind of reformulated, and then we have the oxbow formulation, which is doing a really good job. One area that this chemical can be helpful in is fluroxypyrin 2,4-D resistance in kochia. I just want to mention here, like you can see, these are not my pictures, but whoever did take these pictures had to really get into that crop to look at the efficacy, and we have to do that as well. Sometimes we're right in that crop, really looking at things intricately. And there's just a picture from this last year of that oxbow as well. And we're going to continue to work with New Farm to also develop their products. So the future of commercial innovation, we're going to continue to conduct high-quality, unbiased, third-party research to help companies get their products to market and help farmers. And we want to cultivate those long-term partnerships to be able to understand their products and really help them with continued product development. And we've seen a need to help new companies coming into the market, especially in southern Alberta, to really help them understand what are the needs of farmers in the area, is their product even relevant, and does it work in our area and with our practices. So we'll focus on that a little more. And that's it. I'll leave you with this meme. Hopefully it relates back to my introduction there.
Thank you, Trevor. And you're going to be around for the rest of the day.